One of the challenges of the area of the country, eastern New Mexico and West Texas, where I grew up and where I live, is water. And there are places where the water's not very good. There's some places where you can't drink it. It's bad. A lot of jippy water in certain areas. And so in those areas, when you find a source of good water, it's really a valuable resource. And if you go back 100, 200 years, 300 years ago, you can see just how important knowing where those sources of good water would be. Straight north of where I live is a town called Sweetwater. And the reason it's named that in English is because the Kiowa had named it that in their language even before that. So hundreds of years ago, that was known in the midst of an area of a lot of jippy water, that there was a water source that was sweet. It was good water. You could water your horses, your mules, your cattle, your flocks, and your family there. And so that would be a place that people would know to go. Now imagine, if you will, with me, if you were to be traveling across the country and you stop and check the water at a creek and you say, goodness, that's terrible. I can't drink that water. So you keep moving on and you've got a map or maybe some directions and you're headed for that oasis of sweet water. And you pull up there and there's a guy that's there and he's a local. He lives in the area. And so you're thirsty, your cattle and horses, they haven't drank in a while, and you run up there and you taste the water and it's nasty. And you spit it out and you look around and the horses, they're sniffing of it and they don't want any part of it. And the cows, they don't want it. And so you go over and you talk to the guy and you say, well, I thought this was supposed to be Sweetwater. Oh, well, it is, he says. You should have been here yesterday. Well, it was great. Today's not so good, and we'll see what it's like tomorrow. Well, James is going to use that for an illustration to help you and I understand how dangerous our mouth can truly be. He tells us, he says in verse 5 of James 3, even so the tongue is a little member and boasteth great things. He goes on to say in verse 6, the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. In verse 8 he says, but the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Can you see his illustration? It makes perfect sense, and it would be the kind of thing that if you were to come up there to a source of known good water and it be salty tasting, the look on your face, the shock, the horror, the amazement at the situation, because this just can't be. That's the way that we ought to view what happens with our mouth. One day we're singing the praises of Jesus. The next day we're cursing a man that he made. He says, brethren, these things ought not to be so. And I just want to encourage you today, always remember that what comes out of your mouth starts in your heart. Number one, your heart must belong to Jesus. You must believe with your heart that God raised him from the dead. You must confess with your mouth that he is Lord, and you must be saved. And then once you're saved, then you need to make sure that the Holy Spirit is in control in your life. You need to yield to the Spirit and let him bear fruit so that the fountain of your mouth becomes a fountain of blessing, a fountain of sweet water. And you need to put that old bitter water fountain to death. God bless you. Have a great day.